All right, I might have start. Oh wait, did you put the link in the chat? Or
1 second, I'll do it in a sec, but you can go ahead.
all right. So my advisor Karen is gonna put a link in the chat soon for y'all to sign in. So don't leave. Stay the whole time. Um, but yeah, this is the spring 2024 treasure workshop at Summit. Um, some of you were here last semester, but it's kind of the same. But I'm more knowledgeable now, so let's keep questions for the end, and I'm gonna just go through this. So overview, we're gonna be discussing SGA financial policy and all the key points that are deemed beneficial for treasurers. Um, give you important budget information like the budgeting process, financial operations, and more. And by coming to Treasure Workshop, you were able to complete one of your eligibility requirements. I'll go over the rest later, but Treasure Workshop is one. So if you know somebody that's in the org that hasn't attended or is here today, then make sure you let them know. And I also probably be holding makeup workshops, but that's for another time. Then we'll also be providing student org with the information they need to be
I sent
effective.
you email the questions I have.
Somebody like
David, so you should be able to hover over people's names and click those three little dots and mute them.
yeah, I just moved the camera out the way. It was
Okay.
doing, but yeah. So this is the budgeting process right here. Today we have treasure workshop. There's also a second session after this one, and then I'll most likely hold a couple makeup workshops depending on how many people missed it. But yeah, treasure workshop, and I've made the general timeline for this semester's budgeting process for the fall budgets, but I'll wait till I know the official. So it's initial budget submissions, then you have your FAC meeting, then you have your final budget submission and budget hearing. And I'll elaborate on that also. So your requirements to receive a budget, you must attend treasure workshop what you're doing today. Tiger Stripes package must be 3 or 4 to receive a semester budget. And the difference between 3 and 4 is that with a 4, you can get a travel account. So you'll be able to access funding to go do off campus things like travel, whatever. You also want to make sure your accounts aren't frozen or overdrawn, so in the red. You don't want to be in the negative. And complete any incomplete fundraising requirements. So even if you're new to your org and your org has a debt or fundraising requirement that wasn't met in the previous semester or even 2 semesters ago, you'll still have to finish paying that off before you can access a semester budget. Um, and also when you submit your budget, it has to have adequate research and documents. And I'll also elaborate on those later. And then the financial policy is on the Towson SGA website. All you gotta do is go and look anytime if you have any uh questions or anything like that. And also Carolyn, she just dropped the link in the chat. So if everybody could go to the chat, uh click the link and uh sign in for your order. And next, so budget submission here. So your budget should be submitted using the appropriate budget format on the announced date. I have an example later in the slide. Proper research must be included, and hearings will be held in person and is mandatory. There was a couple orgs that got denied their budget this past budgeting process because they didn't come to budget hearing. So just make sure you come. And also, the Senate has the right to amend or deny any submitted budget if it doesn't follow financial policy. So just make sure if you plan on submitting a budget for this for this budget process for the fall to make sure you're following financial policy or just ask questions. And then research. So anytime a student group intends to request funding, they must submit research. So a lack of research means you won't get the item you requested. So say you just asked for $500 worth of food on your budget submission, but there's no research to back it up, like a catering invoice or a link to all these snacks you get from Amazon and Target. So just make sure you have research when you submit, because it's gonna be a lot of org submit. So that's what we'll be chopping down based on research and following financial policy and things like that. Um, Actually, I'll take, if anybody has any questions, I'll take some right now before we get too far. Any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
So, in order to, I know you were saying like in order to complete a budget, we needed to have all those requirements done. So, if we're just a starting club this semester, we won't be able to do the budget here, like complete a budget.
If you're like an established org registered, you can still enter the process, but you getting the budget will be uh tentative. You complete those requirements that were given, like me and the Tiger Stripes package. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then you came to Treasure Workshop, and
Okay.
then there's like a, if you have, I doubt you have fundraising if you knew, but
No, as of right now, no, we don't.
yeah, so everybody can participate. They're registered org. You just have to meet those at some point or by the next process. Currently, the shaman.
Yeah, if to clarify, the budget process that happens this spring semester is to request a semester budget for fall 2024. So what you request now won't be spent now. It'll be spent in the fall. And all of that is contingent on meeting all of the minimum requirements to access those funds, which include clearing any fundraising requirements from previous semesters and being a Tiger Stripes package 3 or 4. And yeah, fundraising and Tiger Stripes. You
All
can keep
right.
going, David.
Any more questions? And currently, I got to like 2:55, 2:45. What time?
Let me double check because I think there's 2 sessions.
Yeah, I know the other one starts at like 3.
Yeah, so I also have some things to share with the group. So if you don't use the whole time, I have some things to share about how
Oh,
to spend money.
I got you. Um, so I'm gonna keep it going. So items that we don't fund, this is all in financial policy. I just wanted to write it out for you guys so you can see it now. But so fundraisers to meet SGA mandate requirements. So say you get a budget, $500 budget. Each budget has a 15% fundraising requirement. So 15% of that 500 would be um quick math, like 75. So you have to fundraise $75, and I'll get into how you can deposit fundraising requirements and all that later. But if you get a budget, you have to fundraise 15%, and you can't use your budget to fund your fundraisers. So we also don't fund decorations, alcohol, of course, salaries, um, non-consumable goods, giveaways, so stuff people could take home after events, things like that. Um, and then all events are supposed to be free to students. So if you're charging students to come to your event, that's a no-go. Uh, so now accessing funds. Like Curlin was saying, I don't know if everybody was here during the initial session, but all funds must go through the SGA admin assistant, front desk assistant, and that's through the purchase request form. So if you are not submitting any purchase request forms when you make purchases, don't expect to be refunded at all. If you want to be refunded and you budgeted for this money in your budget, just submit a purchase request form and wait to hear back before you spend any of that money, so we can make sure it's going through the right process and you can get your money back, or you could pay your caterer or whatever on time. Um and it must, so yeah, purchase request form filled out prior to making purchases, and once you're approved, you can make this purchase and you'll receive a refund within say a month. I'm not sure how long the process is looking now. Currently could get into that, but there has been some struggles, so it might be longer, but generally 30 days, as long as you give us the purchase request form heads up. And you can also receive cash too. So say you have $50 on a budgeted line item on your budget sheet and you just want to make a quick purchase, you can submit a purchase request form for petty cash and you could get cash from auxiliary services, I believe. Is that correct, Carolyn? All right. Yeah, auxiliary service. I have the room number and all that later in the slide, but any questions about that? Accessing your funding?
Yeah, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
So we're an org that buys like a lot of little things for some of our meetings, like arts and crafts or things like that. Do we have to do a purchase request form every time or only if it's like above the petty cash $50 limit?
Yeah, so purchase request form for literally everything on your budget sheet. So you said that was on your what fall budget or something for events you guys have.
Yeah, like our meetings, like we might have like small things. So I guess it was a part of our budget.
Yeah,
So
can I clarify really quick? Any purchase, whether it's SGA money or your general account funds, requires a purchase request. So if you're being reimbursed, we need to know that's to expect that someone is coming to ask for us to reimburse them. We need a digital record of that, which is what the purchase request helps us do. In addition to
I'm
that, if you, and this might be helpful for you. So if it's burdensome for people in your organization to have to go make purchases and then wait for a reimbursement, we can purchase items for you ahead of time. So we primarily order through Amazon or Target. So if you think you can get your items from Amazon or Target, let us know ahead of time. We'll make the purchase. It'll be delivered to the office and we'll let you know that it's ready to come be picked up.
Thank you.
okay. Any more questions about accessing your funding?
I had another question. So
Alright.
all we have to do to access the funds is it's because it's based off of the form that we give in the prior semester. Do we just email that email to request the funds and that's how it goes through?
So I'm going to do a section about this. So David is actually going to talk about what it means to request money from SGA. And then when I get to my presentation, I'll talk more in depth about the technical processes of spending money.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's keep it rolling. Spending your funds, same thing, but yeah, just make sure you're keeping your original receipts when you pay for things. And mind you, this is after your purchase request form and it's approved. So keep your original receipts, invoices, anything like that, so you can be reimbursed when you make these purchases. And then also for online orders, I don't know if it's tax exempt or something along that line, but basically Towson doesn't get taxed and we use certain providers that don't tax us. So Target and Amazon are the main two. So if you make a budget and you're looking to um make these purchases on SGA money, just make sure it's tax exempt. Yeah. Moving forward. So budget change request and the grace period. So when you make your budget and it's officially approved, there's a grace period which is 2 weeks after treasure workshop. So today is treasure workshop. So 2 weeks from today, say you submitted a budget back in the fall and I sent you an approval email um on January 11th. So we submitted a budget, I sent out approvals January 11th, and uh from today you have 2 weeks to make any changes if you would like to make them for against your budget, and those will move with your fundraising requirement. So if you take away money, your fundraising requirement will go down. But after this 2 week period, if you make any changes, your fundraising requirement won't change at all. So just keep that in mind. 2 weeks from today is your grace period. Um, Alternative funding. So we have all types of grants and different funds you can tap into outside of the budgeting process. So that includes supplemental, the Just Do It grant, collaboration fund, sustainability, the weekend retention and explore conference fund, and So the supplemental request is, I guess, essentially the treasurer's money. I'm not sure, but it's supposed to be on top of your budget. So we've had
I hate
instances.
you.
Um, so supplemental requests are in addition to the org budget, and you must be a Tiger Stripes package 2, 3, or 4. And I know to get a semester budget, you have to be a package 3 or 4, which makes this kind of weird. So we had some orgs that were, I guess, new administrations, and they had debt from previous orgs, and they couldn't get a budget, and they tried to use the supplemental to get the actual budget, but they might have been under a package 3. But that still kind of is legal in this sense. But from now on, if you haven't met your requirements or whatever, it would have to be an extreme instance for you to get supplemental funding, basically. But so don't rely on the supplemental fund to get money for your budget. Um, and then the supplemental restrictions. So supplemental requests are limited to a single event, and it can't exceed account maximums, which I'll get into. But each account, so your activity account, travel account, equipment account, and advertising and print account all have maximum. And because supplemental funding is in addition to your budget, any money you get for supplemental can't go above those maximums. So if you already maxed out your activity account and you're trying to get supplemental funding for something in your activity account, you can't add anything because you already at the max, if that makes sense. And then the Just Do It grant. So the Just Do It grant empowers individuals to positively change or influence Towson University's campus. All fee-paying students are able to apply as long as you're undergraduate, and you must submit this request at least 4 weeks prior to your event or whatever it may be. And this goes with a lot of requests. Make sure you're doing it ahead of time so we have time to go through our processes. Because if you do it close to the day, it's very unlikely you'll go through all the process to get you approved for that. So just make sure you're looking at deadlines and things like that. Collaboration fund uh encourages collaboration between two or different objectives. Uh, Only one out of the two collaborating awards have to be package 1, 2, 3, or 4, read chapter or honors, and it's restricted to 3 times a semester, so no more than 3 requests. And all grants are reviewed by grant review, which is the treasurer, attorney general, uh, and different leadership roles in SGA. Sustainability fund for projects never implemented on campus by students or orgs. And also at least 4 weeks prior to the event. And yeah. And then the weekend retention fund, this is to make sure, or at least try to keep students on campus during the weekend. So if you have an idea for an event or something that might be fun for students to stay on campus over the weekend, like a Saturday event or a Sunday event, then you could reach into this fund and yeah, try to keep students on campus, keeps campus life going. And then the Explore Conference Fund is to provide students funding if they got accepted at a conference or like a any kind of event to speak at or come to, and it's limited to 1 conference per semester per student. It's not a lot of money in this, if I'm gonna be honest, but yeah, there's an opportunity in this, and you must provide research, write a proposal, and have a letter of recommendation to support uh, the funding for it. So account information, like I was talking about maximums, these are the account maximums. So the general account, which is basically your org's bank account that carries over each semester. Uh, that's the general account, and it has no max. So it's basically just a bank account for your org. And then these last 4 are what actually fluctuates per semester. So depending on what you submit during the budgeting process, uh, That's what you'll receive with these maxes. Uh, so your general account, it's your responsibility as a org. You can spend that money on the items that we don't fund, um, additional costs or any expenses, things like that. And any money in the account not spent during the semester is gonna stay. So, like I said, it's your bank account. Uh, so activity account is used for on-campus events. And when you get these entertainers, DJ or food, each item can't per event can't exceed 700. So if you have an entertainer for one event and they're charging $1,000, you can't do it because the max is 700. So that's for anything in the activity account. So make sure you stay under that. And we also use for food Tiger Hospitality. That's the schools. It used to be Black and Gold. If some of y'all knew that, and now it's Tiger Hospitality. So if you're looking to get food, just make sure you're going through Tiger Hospitality. I'm currently making a cheat sheet, so that'll be available to you guys. So you're not going looking for links and all this stuff you need to function. And then the travel accounts, like I said, you have to be a Tiger Stripes package full. That's the only difference between the two. Really. But yeah, $2,000 max. And also there's details to that, like in financial policy, it says you have to be using the state rate per mile. I think it's like 65 cents a mile. And then that goes with your research. So if you submitted research for a trip, you would put Google Maps, screenshot the trip from Towson to wherever you're going and back, and multiply the miles by your the state rates, which is 65 cents, and then SGA could pay that, and you won't be paying for travel. So your equipment and advertising account, equipment account only used for necessary equipment. I'm not sure if you guys have heard ECS, but basically that's all the tech and equipment on campus. So your microphone, stages, uh, speaker phones, all that kind of stuff. And then printing and advertising is not full service, so we're not gonna pay for subscriptions for you to use. This is all through Towson, so TUR services, Copies Plus, and you will just get a print request form from the front desk assistant. His name is Habib, uh, and I'll have his contact information later in the PowerPoint. So spending, I'm pretty sure Carolyn can also go into when she goes through accessing funds, but with the Tiger Hospitality Catering, you have to submit that request 10 days before the event. So like I said in the cheat sheet, I'm gonna be adding all these links so you're not running everywhere to find where you submit these orders to find the food. So just be looking out for that. And like for equipment, you must use ECS, like I said, online stores, tax exempt, and then printed advertising front desk for the print request form. That's the overview for that. So your budget sheet, I crossed out some confidential stuff, but here's an example of a submitted budget. So this is from the past fall 24, so this is what it looked like. Each semester, the budget sheet might change just for functionality. So before you make your budget sheet, during this semester's budget process, just be sure you're looking that you're using the right documents. Because if you don't submit the right one, you'll most likely get denied. So just make sure you're using the correct budget sheet. And here's your trial balance. It'll show you where your accounts currently are. So it'll be able to tell you if you're negative or positive. And then, like I said, to make deposits for your fundraising requirement, you can go to auxiliary services on the third floor, West Village, Commons, room 309, and you just say you're part of this org. And if you have check money, just deposit. And then you can email SGA Finance letting us know you deposit this money. And any money you deposit during that semester will go towards your fundraising requirement for that semester. So as an org, you can also keep tabs on that. So that'll also help us in our processes. But reclamation of funds. So if you are an org not following financial policy and someone finds you violating that, The Attorney General, who is Jenna Jolly, she has the power to reclaim funds and nullify the student group's budget. So just make sure you follow financial policy. That contact information, questions. Uh, like I said, my name is David. I'm the SGA treasurer, and then that's my email, and then the front desk assistant, that's their email. Um, and yeah, these are the faces if you want to remember. Curlin on the far left, my advisor, me, Vice President Sean Bell, President Jordan Coker. This is the
I think David got disconnected. He'll join us back in just a second, but in the meantime, if there are any questions before I start my presentation, would be happy to answer them.
I was wondering how we're able to see our find our trial balance. We know how much we have in our general account.
Yep, that's an email to sgafinance@towson.edu.
Thank you.
Yeah, right now, and just so y'all know, this is like a general aside, the hope is in the next couple of years, which won't affect you in this moment, but to make it a little bit easier for you to, as student leaders, track your organization's finances in a more immediate way. So right now you have to send the email to request the information, which is the only process we have access to at the moment, but hopefully in the future, we can make it a little bit easier. Any other questions before I move forward?
I have a question.
Mhm.
So, after this Zoom call, is there will we have, if you need to refer back to anything, would there be an email or would there be a PowerPoint?
Yeah, so Chris Rendosh, who's been running this program, he's going to compile all of the recorded videos for what's happening at today's summit, and it'll be accessible for all students.
I have
Okay,
a
thank
quick
you.
question. For fundraising, do you guys have a guidelines for it just to make sure if there's any rules? Because I remember they said there was rules for bake sales and doing tickets a few years ago.
Yeah, there are policies written down. I'm going to make a note to for David to include that on his quick quick access sheets that he's making. There is some information written down. I do think ECS manages the what can actually happen in a physical space. There are also some rules written down in the SGA Financial Policy about it. So we'll compile the information and get it to you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to move us into the pieces that the technical pieces that I'm going to share about how you actually spend money on campus. I'm going to share my screen. And then if someone can unmute and tell me, can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Canva. Okay, and if I go into present mode, can you still see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yep.
Perfect. So I'm going to talk briefly about spending money on campus. This presentation will also be available to everyone afterwards. So in general, SGA Finance, so the Student Government Association office, is here to make sure that financial spending by student organizations can happen. There are some things that have changed this year. We had someone who worked for SGA for a long time who retired last spring, and we've had a little bit of trouble replacing that person because hiring is difficult. But all in all, we are still here to support you. You can email sgafinance@towson.edu or visit the SGA office in the Union room 263 when you need assistance. And then this is a list of some key terms just to make sure you all understand what you might need when you're asking for something. So I will continue to drill in that it is really, really imperative that a purchase request be the first thing that you do when you are getting ready to spend money through your student organization. I will also show you where you can find that link. The purchase request form is the first line of the process to ensure that the staff and Student Government Association knows that your organization is prepared to spend money. There's been some gaps in communication, mostly because in general, we don't know that you are planning to spend money with a vendor. And then we find out way after the fact that they haven't been paid. So start with the purchase request. There are also a few different types of accounts that you would see on your trial balance. Your general account is your fundraised money. So any money your group fundraises or deposits into your account are deposited into your general account section. From there, there's multiple Student Government Association accounts, including activity. Activity gets used the most often, which is why it's included on this slide. But there's also a travel account. There's also a advertisement account and equipment account. So it could be one of 5 accounts that are listed on your trial balance. And it's important to know what pile of money you are spending from. Petty cash is the key marker for petty cash is $50. If you're spending $50 or less, you can get a petty cash advance, which means you go pick up $50 in cash, you go spend that money. Any change from your purchase, you return along with an itemized receipt back to where you picked up the $50 to begin with, and then it gets charged to your student organization's account. You can also be reimbursed through petty cash. So if you spend less than $50 and you are asking for a reimbursement, you would get that reimbursement back in petty cash. Reimbursement process is really about making sure you can get the money back that you've spent on behalf of your student organization. If you are getting reimbursed for a purchase over $50, it'll come to you in the form of a check. Right now, that process is taking up to 30 days. Again, we have some staff turnover, but we're making sure that things are getting processed. The semester budget process is what David talked about a little bit earlier. So each semester, student organizations request a semester budget for the following semester. So this spring 2024, student org leaders will request a semester budget for fall 2024. In fall 2024, those students will request a semester budget for spring 2025. Supplemental and grant funds are also what David talked about. Those are opportunities for additional funding through Student Government Association, and they have specific categories. So depending on the type of event you are hosting, you can request funds based on what you're doing. The contract process is kind of a big one. There's not a lot of groups who use it, but it is important when you need to execute a contract between a service provider or vendor that it's happening correctly, because there's a lot of legal implications for that. If you do not feel like you are comfortable enough managing the contract process on your own, there's always a staff member either in Student Government Association or Student Activities who can help you with that process. There is a dedicated staff member who manages contracts for student orgs. Her name is Blair Higgs. She's the administrative assistant for Student Activities. Quote and invoice are 2 different things. A quote is a projection of a cost or a service that a vendor might provide for you. So when you want to find out how much it costs for the company to provide a service or a good for you, you ask them for a quote. Hey, how much is this going to be? And they'll tell you, yeah, that service will cost $1,000. And now you have the information that you can submit as a part of your purchase request. The invoice is the final cost. So if the company quoted you $1,000, but during the event you needed something additional and they added another $100, your final invoice will be $1,100 instead of just $1,000. It is important that you collect the final invoice so that we can actually pay the vendor what they're owed. So make sure, and every company also does not do quotes. So sometimes it can be one or the other. Sometimes these terms are used interchangeably, but at the very least, you want to be sure that you know and understand how much it'll cost for you to do something with an outside vendor. And then accounts payable is an office at TU that helps process payments to vendors. If you remember in the larger group room, I mentioned that we are moving to a process where we are only going to pay vendors through the state of Maryland. That means the day after your event happens, we'll submit your invoice for payment. It'll go to, literally, it'll go to the state of Maryland, and then they will cut the check to the vendor. That process can take 10 to 20 business days or up to a month. So just keep that in mind. It's important that you know that so that you can communicate it to the vendors that you're working with. Are there any questions about key terms before I keep going? All right. So the purchase request process. So the next 3 slides are actually formatted very similarly so that you hopefully have a better understanding of what each step looks like. So the purchase request process. The first thing you're going to do is find the link to the purchase request form. It's on the homepage of Involved at TU. Once you do that, there's the first page of the document has, or the first page of the form has some more key terms and information in that that'll help guide you to fill out the form. You first need to determine the type of purchase you're making and the funding source. So the type is either general or reimbursement. A general purchase is if you want SGA to pay for something ahead of time. So if you want SGA to order items off of Amazon, you're making a general purchase. If you're asking for a reimbursement because someone is already planning to make the purchase out of their pocket and get the money back, then you would select reimbursement. From there, you need to know your funding source. Is this money coming from your general funds account where that's your fundraised money? Or is it coming from your SGA semester budget? If it's coming from your SGA semester budget, you have to confirm, you should know this as either the treasurer or the president, if your org was allocated funds to pay for the item you're requesting. So if you were only approved to buy or to pay for a DJ and a ECS cost for your spring large-scale event, but instead you submit a purchase request for your SGA semester budget that asks for us to pay for the food, then we can't pay for that with your SGA semester budget.
They're using us as an example.
A few of folks who just joined us, you're unmuted. If you can mute yourselves, thank you so much and welcome. So keep that in mind. You should identify your funding source. You are able to use multiple funding sources. So in the document, there's an option for you to click both. So if you're using both general funds and SGA semester budget, that's totally fine. We can use both. You'll identify if the funds will be used for a campus event. If you click yes to that question, it'll ask you for the details of that campus event. From there, you'll determine the category. So that tells us what you're actually spending the money on. It's either activity, travel, equipment, or printing and advertising. Once you get through the full form, you're gonna submit it. I'm gonna actually show you really quick. Am I? Yes. Where you can find the document. So can everyone see Involved at TU on my page, on my screen? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you. So always at the top of this homepage, right in the middle here, you can see purchase request form. When you click on this link, it'll open the purchase request form. I had already been filling it out, which is why it didn't take me to the homepage. But if you're clicking it for the first time, it'll take you to the homepage of this document. And then you just follow the prompts according to what's happening at your event. The next piece that, I'm not gonna go full screen again, but the next piece is about the reimbursement process. So for reimbursements, for the reimbursement process, there is a key component that sometimes trips up students, but we want to make sure that you're getting your money back. We process your checks through the state of Maryland, and it requires that there be a completed itemized receipt for the purchase that you made. The state of Maryland needs to see that you see what you've paid for and to ensure that it is not a prohibited purchase. So itemized receipt means it has a vendor name on it, some type of address, date of purchase, and then which items you purchased, how many of them, and their costs. At the bottom somewhere, it should indicate that you have actually made the payment. So usually there's like the last 4 digits of your credit card, or it says like paid in full. There needs to be some indicator on that. If you go into a store and get a register receipt, you have to bring in the original receipt to the office, to the SGA office. Excuse me. It cannot be a picture of the receipt. It cannot be a photocopy of the receipt. It has to be the original. If you made the purchase online, then we would print the receipt from the online place, like wherever, if it's your email or if it's on the website, we would print that and use that as the receipt. So reimbursement process includes submitting the purchase request form prior to making the purchase, making the purchase and collecting the itemized receipt, detailing all of those things I just named. From there, you're going to bring your original receipts to the SGA office. We're in UU 263. And there's a pink slip that's a half sheet. It's like bright, bright pink. We're going to fill that out to make sure that you can get your reimbursement check. The staff will generate the reimbursement check and then we'll email you when it's ready for pickup. Are there questions about reimbursement? Great. The last thing I'll share is about general purchase process. This is typically for Amazon or Target. So if you know that you can purchase items for your events through Amazon or Target, and that the university can pay for it on your behalf so that people don't have to spend money out of their pockets, we can do that for you. The first thing you're going to do is visit the Amazon or Target website, pick your items. But the key here is that you either put them on an Amazon list or a Target registry wish list. This is key so that the staff and student government association are not hunting for exactly what you need. Sending us a general description is not helpful. We need to know exactly what you want us to purchase and of how many you need. In the list that you're creating, you're going to label it with your organization name or the acronym. So if it's Black Student Union, you can say BSU, and the title of the event. You need to update the quantities that you need so that we can see it inside of the website. And then when you are submitting the purchase request, you're going to include the link to the list that you created. So the Amazon wish list or the Target list that you created, you're going to copy the link and put it in the purchase request. And then you're going to submit the purchase request. So for example, on Amazon, I'm gonna click one of these office supplies here. So I want to buy this thing. I'm going to add it to a list. I'm over here in the corner or in the right side of the page. I'm going to click this drop-down menu and click Create List. So I'm going to call my list SGA, and I'm doing a fun event. So SGA is my organization. My event name is called Fun Event. So I'm going to say Create List. Now my item is added to this list. If I go home, I'm going to pick something else. Let's buy some paper towels here. No, not paper towels. We're going to add these. I didn't want to add that to the cart. All right, so we're picking some bounty things. I'm going to click down here and add to my SJ Fun Event list.
Brand new this semester, that I would say don't go for
Chris, we can hear you.
Or try to aim for point goals that aren't going to help you. There's reasons for this, like in the SGA Financial Policy, you can't receive a budget that's been registered for 2 semesters. So there's a part of the reason we structured the program this way to like be in line with the SGA.
Can y'all hear Chris?
But what I'll say is,
oh, Maritza, it's you. Can you mute your screen?
Yeah, I can hear Chris.
Okay. All right. So I just added these things to my list. Now, the key that you should pay attention to here, if I needed multiple of one thing, I am going to go to my list. So at my SGA Fun Events, if I want to add a comment or change the quantity, I'm going to do that here. So if I wanted 5 of these, I'm going to change the quantity. Did you see that? If I wanted 2 paper towels, I'm going to change it to 2. Now my list is updated. So if I want to share that list, I'm going to click share. I'm gonna get the link for it, generate a public link, copy this link, and this is what I'm gonna include in the purchase request form. All right, that's what I have for how we practically do many of these things. I am happy to take questions so that we can be sure to move on to our next session. Any questions?
And make sure y'all sign in. I just sent it in the chat again.
Y'all are good?
I had a quick question about the 15% refund raise, or the 15% required fundraise. Is that go to our general account for us to use, or does that just kind of like go to like the SGA and we can't use that 15%?
The money that you fundraise for your organization can use whenever you'd like.
Okay.
Good question. Any other questions?
Club matters a lot. So if you registered last semester, that technically counts for
Claire,
one
do you have a question?
semester would be second semester, which means the first time you receive a budget would be the following fall. If you started
Claire?
this semester, then that would mean the earliest you could get it would be spring.
David,
I'm sorry,
can you
I don't
mute
have
Claire?
it. Did you
Oh,
say
go ahead.
Blair? I don't have a question.
Not
No.
Blair, Claire Alley
Oh,
is
We're gonna do
unmuted.
the breakout. Great question. All right, so I'm gonna put this link in the chat again. It's the involved at TU link. So if you go to
Claire,
the down,
David, can you mute her, please? Thanks. Any other questions? If not, y'all can move on to your next session. And thanks for coming.
I think the wrong form got sent for the login.
Yeah, the
What do you-
sign. I was trying to look. I think I sent the edit link.
The
You
link to what?
sign in. You email me a link to Microsoft Forms.
And
I
what's,
sent it to the chat, but I think it's the edit link.
oh yeah, don't send them that. Oh, yeah, hold on.
chat problems.
Yes, this is the treasure workshop.
Okay.
Oh, people edit. Stop with. Oh, stop editing the form.
Oh, gosh. No.
Nah.
Okay, wait.
Recording in progress.
Hello.
Hey, okay, friends.
Lifetime Family Medicine, we got your lab results back. Did you have a moment to go over those?
Yes.
We can hear you, Jay. We can hear you. Please mute yourselves, friends.
Dr.
Please
Roseman
mute
did
yourselves.
send the high dose.
Please
once
mute
weekly,
yourselves.
I'm muted.
I have another question. For the petty cash, for petty cash to, since we can use that for both general and reimbursement, well, I guess first question is like for asking for petty cash to be filled out the purchase request form for that.
Yes, everything requires a purchase request.
Okay, and then, since it can be used both as for like pre-purchase and as a reimbursement, when we're filling out that form, what would be listed under first? Is like just for like that specific thing, whether it would be reimbursing and then or purchasing, and then after that there's a button that says petty cash. I guess
Yeah, so that's a good question. I have it on my list to actually update the form. Because this is new to me too. So since the gap with staffing, I have learned more about this process. So I have to add a button that's reimbursement under $50 for you to be able to select that's what it is.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
by the time school starts, it will be there for you to select.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. For friends who just joined us, for the treasurer workshop, I'm dropping the link for you to log in and tell us you were here. Why do we have state, city, and zip code? What is this? Oh, did you update this, David?
Update what? The form?
Yeah, I see state, city, zip code. Did I have?
Oh no, they were saying recommended fields to add. I
No,
just added them.
we don't need these.
I didn't add it though. That must have been somebody else.
Sorry. This is
Apology. Any more questions? We got 3 more minutes.
preferred date. Sorry, though. Don't fill out the form yet. What is happening? There's a lot going on.
It look crazy now.
Yeah.
No more questions?
What is happening here?
If you signed in, you could leave. And you don't gotta come to the second workshop. If you came in this one and you signed in and you think you're well informed, you could leave. You met your requirement.
Wait, what? All right, friends, I'm so sorry. Somebody has edited this document and I'm not sure what's going on. So don't, man,
We got, did at least the names come through?
this is not what, no, this is not what it should be. So David is gonna start us off. I'm gonna create a new form. And then I will drop it in the chat for y'all to use. So David, you can start out. You can start off, I mean, you can keep
Start off the second one?
the second workshop. Well, it starts at 3, right?
Yeah, 2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay. Let me fix this.
Someone said it's 2 student organization fields. Student organization.
Something happened. I think someone got a hold of it that should not have it. Now it's messed up. So I'm gonna fix it. Give me just a second, okay?
If we filled it out at the beginning of the session before it was edited, can we head out?
Were you in the first session or the second
Yeah,
one?
the first one.
Oh yeah, it's fine. You can go.
All right, thank you.
So it saved everybody who did already sign in.
Yeah, it saved
Like
the
58.
info, but it's changed. It got changed at some point. So I'm gonna change it back to what it was before. I think maybe. Was it always this?
We're gonna start the second session in like the next 2 minutes, y'all.
Still don't fill the form out, right?
Correct. Don't do anything.
They got that bad?
Yes.
Oh, man. Mm, 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 mm. Apparently,
Yeah.
the form looks fine. Like when you click the link you put, it looks.
No.
Can I test it?
Uh,
I'm gonna test it.
no, there's additional stuff on here, but it's also, I'm
No,
gonna let you.
I'm telling you, it says something like add, but it was like a recommendation. They didn't do it.
Yeah. I'm gonna let you get started. I will drop the link, the registration link in just a second.
Alright. I'm about to start. I just submitted one, so let me know if it came through. PowerPoint. Alright. I might have started the second session, but if you haven't signed in from the first session, I'll just stick around if you can till we update the sheet. Any quick questions before I start? Okay. So, welcome to Spring 2024 Summit. It's the Treasure Workshop. My name's David Onwonga. I'm the treasurer for Towson SGA. So today we're just gonna be discussing SGA financial policy, and key points that are gonna be beneficial towards you guys, specifically treasurers of your orgs. We providing budget information, like the process and the operations for the finances. By coming to this treasure workshop, you completed one of your requirements to receive a budget. So congrats on that. And yeah, moving forward, this is the entire budgeting process. I've already outlined the prospective dates, but until they're official, I won't send them out. But the general process is treasure workshops, which is right now. Initial budget submissions. I'll probably send, last semester I sent an email out with like a single email to all the orgs with all the details. So when you get that email, just make sure you save that because it'll most likely have literally all the information you need to know for the budget, what you need to submit, dates you need to make, things you need to fill out, and things like that. And then after initial budget submission, there'll be FAC meetings. Those aren't mandatory, but if you've never been to a budget hearing or anything like that, I would advise you to go there so we can make changes. Because if you come to budget hearing and your budget isn't up to par, we can't help you. You'll just get denied because you didn't submit the proper information. But yeah, that's the general process. Requirements to receive a budget. So treasure workshop, you want to have a Tiger Stripes package of 3 or 4. The difference between that with a 4, you have access to your travel account. So there's a rate in financial policy. It's about 65 cents a mile. So that's what SGA will be able to do. So if you do research for travel line item and its mileage, you would have to show those calculations, screenshot your Google Maps showing that from Towson University to this theater or something is this many miles, and then back is this many miles. Multiply that by the 65 cent, and that's what you'll be able to get compensated for. Also completing any incomplete fundraising requirements. If you're an older org or you taken out an SGA semester budget before, you definitely had a fundraising requirement, which is usually 15% of what you request or what you're given. So if you aren't depositing enough money to meet that fundraising requirement in the semester, it'll carry over the debt. And if you don't pay that off, you can't access the budget. So just make sure your organization isn't in any kind of debt. You could look at your trial balance. I'll get into that later and who you can contact for it, but that's just to make sure your accounts aren't overdrawn or frozen. And like I said, with the mileage, just make sure you're submitting enough research for all things on your budget, whether it be food, a DJ. We need to see some kind of email from the source saying these are the prices, like confirmed like price and um invoices, receipts, things like that, so we can have reference to say, okay, yeah, this is the price. Don't just type it out, food 500, and you expect to get it. Research needs to be provided, and also just make sure you're following the deadlines that are provided in financial policy. Uh, but moving forward, budget submission and hearing. So, like I said in a certain email around the budget process time, I'll send out a big email and I'll have most details. So you want to make sure you're using the appropriate budget format. So it might be a new budget sheet for the semester just for functioning reasons. And if you don't use it, you'll most likely get it denied because it might be mandatory to use it just to make uh our uh our files easier to handle, if that makes sense. And then proper research and hearings. The budget hearings, you have to come. There was some orgs that got denied because they didn't come to their budget hearings. So just make sure you're getting somebody from your org, preferably your treasurer, president, someone from e-board, and yeah, budget hearings are mandatory. If somebody got their mic on, can you mute it, please? And also, the Senate has the right to amend or deny any submitted budgets if it doesn't follow financial policy. And financial policy is on our site. It's available 24/7. So if you have any questions, you could just go look, and it should be able to tell you the rules behind that. Research. So you must submit research. Like I said, it could be like with mileage, Google Maps, screenshot, prices, links, receipts, invoices, anything with like from a credible source that we can say, okay, yeah, this is the actual price. And you have to include research in your initial and final budget. So don't expect to put research in your initial budget and that same research isn't in your final budget. And because you send it for initial, we're gonna correlate the two. You have to submit it with whatever at the right time. And research should be neatly formatted in a Word doc. So all those links, screenshots of invoices, maps, miles, emails, all that should be neatly formatted in a Word doc. And yeah, request submit without research cannot be approved. These are items we do not fund. So like I said, you have a 15% fundraising requirement for the budget, the money you allocated. So if say you get allocated 500, 50% be $75, and you will have to make $75 worth of deposits in that semester towards your general account, and that'll be counted towards your fundraising requirement. So it's not us taking the money from you, but we're just making sure you're able to produce or have people willing to pay for your org. And yeah, that's the 15% of your budget. But that's your money to keep, like I said, in your general account. But you would have to make those deposits throughout the semester and meet that requirement before you can get another semester budget. That's why if your account has any fundraising requirements not met, you can't get a budget. So yeah, make sure you're not in debt. Your fundraising requirements have been met. No decorations, alcoholic beverages, equipment items that can become individual possessions, salaries, off-campus events for pure social nature, giveaways, non-consumable goods, and all events should be free to you students. So if someone's charging for their event, please let somebody know. That's not okay. All right. Access and funds. Carolyn should be able to go into this in more detail. But we've gone through many issues. We've had many people leave the finance department, so it's literally just me, Carolyn, and like two other student workers. So bear with us. But yeah, all requests for budget funds must go through the SGA admin assistant, which can be reached at this email. His name is Habib, and he works usually 9 to 5 during the week, during the school year at the SGA front desk. UU 263 is the SGA room. So that's where you could find them. And it's your responsibility to get all your money in your budget, we're not gonna give it to you just because you requested it. So make sure you're following the processes, and can't stress this enough. If you want to get reimbursed for anything you budgeted for, you have to submit a purchase request form prior. So if you bought something and you submit a purchase request form the day after, and you come in and say you want a reimbursement, you most likely won't get it because we weren't able to approve that. Because we have to see where our money's flowing and when we can get it back by, so you can get it in a timely manner. Because it could be a catering invoice or a third party provider that needs to get paid. So purchase request forms for all purchases. I don't, if it's less than 50, purchase request forms still. There's options for petty cash, check, the different things. Just use a purchase request form. And that's on involved at TU. And Carolyn will go over that. She has a slide of her own. So spending funds, like I said, those checks for invoices for like I guess people that just make invoices for their services. They can get paid with a check up to 30 days after the approval. So purchase request form, same thing. And then after 30 days of the approval, we'll try to get it back to that person. And then online orders, like I said, we tax exempt. So we mainly use Target and Amazon. Petty cash, if it's less than $50, you can get cash literally from auxiliary services. Just make sure you having your original receipt or anything that's a receipt or email confirmation has to be the original. So no copies, none of that. Original paperwork. So the budget change requests and the grace period. So if so, I'm not sure if all you guys noticed, but the process, so during the spring, we're budgeting for the fall. So last semester in the fall, the whole budget process that took place was for this semester. So the budget process that's gonna happen this semester is for fall funding. So 2 weeks from today, you have 2 weeks from today to make any changes to your budget if you got approved. So say you don't think you want to do this event anymore, you had like $500 worth of food. Between these 2 weeks, you can submit the budget change request and say you want it off, and your fundraising requirement will move with your deductions or any increase or anything like that. So after the 2 weeks, if you make any decreases to your budget, like say we gave you 3K and now it's 2,000, your fundraising requirement wouldn't fluctuate and be 15%. It will stay at the original amount you requested. So if you want to make changes to your budget and care about your fundraising requirement decreasing, make sure you keep the 2 weeks grace period in mind. Alternative funding, supplemental, all these different grants. I'll go over them. So supplemental requests, these are supposed to be on top of your budget. So these budgets that just got approved, if there's an unforeseen expense, emergency, or something for your event, but you can't add it anymore, say it's past grace period, and you can reach into this supplemental funding to have money on top of your budget. Say you want $200 more worth of food because you have more expected attendees, then you could submit a supplemental request. If there's money in the pot and there's valid reason, like it's an actual unforeseen expense, then you could be provided. And if you see on the third bullet point, it says you must be a package 2, 3, or 4, but semester budgets are only package 3 or 4, which is why this rule is kind of weird. But I don't want people thinking that just because they are package 2, they can just grab money from the supplemental request. It would have to be like a real unforeseen expense or emergency, not just somebody didn't add this to the budget, but they've had the same event for like the past 5 years. That's not unforeseen, if that makes sense. And then the restriction to this, it's only limited to a single event, cannot exceed your account maximums. I'll get into that later. And it doesn't replace your budget. It's supposed to be in addition to your budget. So just make sure we're clear on that. The Just Do It grant empower individuals to positively change or influence Towson University's campus. So all undergraduate students who are fee paying can apply for this. And for most programs, events, you want to apply 4 weeks in advance at least, just so it could go through all the process. You got ECS funds that need to go through, approvals from caterers, food, whatever. So 4 weeks in advance, if you want to have an event initiative program, just make sure you're giving us that time. Collaboration fund. This is for encouraging collaboration between groups with different objectives. Only one of the orgs have to be one of the Tiger Stripes packages, a Greek chapter or honors. Limited to 3 times per student organization per semester, and these are reviewed by grant review, which I am also a part of. The Attorney General is part of that. Appropriations chair, all these different finance and legal roles in SGA. And we'll just go over it and decide what we think you deserve based on your research or submission. Sustainability fund for initiatives, projects never implemented on campus. Basically new initiatives we want to see. We want to keep the university flowing going. So it's a good fund for that. Like I said, 4 weeks in advance. So it could go through the process. Weekend retention fund. This is to help keep students on campus over during the weekend. Keep school spirit up. So if you have an idea for an event over the weekend, this is a fund you can reach into. It could be a talent show, something like that, just to keep students there on Friday night through the weekend. And it has to be free of charge for all members, and it can't be a fundraising event. Explore conference fund so if you have been invited to a conference or to speak or just come to, you must provide research, a proposal, and a letter of recommendation from whoever invited you. Say they're the owners of the conference happening or host or head, and they want you to come. You have a written letter of recommendation from them. But there's not a lot of money in this pot, so I wouldn't look to this to pay for all your expenditures, but it can help. Yeah. And then, like I said, there's account maximums. With the supplemental funding, you cannot go above these account maximums. So just make sure we're keeping this in mind. And the general account has no maximum because this is your personal account. So each semester, the money carries over in this account, and you can spend this money on anything, like even the items we don't fund, decorations, spend it on whatever you want. It's your personal or it's bank account. So just make sure that account isn't in the negative or any of the other accounts provided by SGA. So the activity account, equipment account, travel account, advertising. And like I said before, you can get the activity, equipment, and advertising for package 3, Tiger Stripes, and travel accounts only for package 4. So make sure you know that. General account, the org's responsibility. Like I said, you can fund whatever. And the money will remain whatever's not spent. It's like a regular bank account. Activity, travel account. Activity accounts for on-campus events. Say you want a DJ, entertainer, food. This is something this is the account you will use it for. And it can't be no more than $700. So if you have food for a single event, that's $800. You can't do that. That's above the max. So all line items must stay under 700. And I know some of you guys aren't new to this, and we used to use black and gold, but now it's Tiger Hospitality as the last semester, I believe. So I'm making a treasure cheat sheet, and I'll have most links that you'll need to function as a student org, whether it be for food, your purchase request forms, financial policy, different rules, regulations you must follow. Just I'll have it in one place, so before you ask any question, you can look for yourself. The travel account used for all off-campus activities. Like I said, you have to be a package 4 for this. And yeah, like with the mileage, Google Maps times it by the state rate, 65 cents. And that's your research. Equipment, advertising accounts. equipment is, if you know ECS, they do the tech and equipment, microphones, all that on campus. So they just regulate. So if you want to have it on campus, but you're most likely going to have to use ECS. You must use ECS. So yeah, that's the account for the equipment. And then printing and advertising is not for services. You can't just ask us to fund a subscription you guys have with another company that prints. We have TU Art Services and Copies Plus. So all you would do is go to the front desk assistant, request a print request form, and fill that out and take it down to Copies Plus, which is also in the union. So with spending, here's an overview. So with food, Tiger Hospitality, minimum of 10 days before the event, you want to give these people time to approve your spending. If you're using the outside food source, but SGA money, they would have to approve that also. So don't just be going out spending. Please submit a purchase request form first, or just ask questions so we can make sure you guys are getting your money back if you need to get reimbursed on time, paying the people, different things like that. Like I said, for equipment, you must use ECS. Online store purchases were tax exempt, so we usually use Target, Amazon. And printing and advertising, like I said, get the print request form from the front desk assistant and take it to printing services to complete that purchase. Here's an example of a budget sheet, uh, fall 2023 for this semester. So these were budgets that were submitted for the semester coming up, because the way it works is the previous semester budget process for the next semester's budget. So this semester, spring semester's budget process will be for the fall. I'm not sure if I already said that, but I just wanted to make it clear. And yeah, there may be new sheets, budget sheets to use each semester. So be sure you're checking your emails when that time comes around, and that you're using all the proper documents and submission portals, things like that. Because we had that issue this semester, but it was a lot of new stuff. So I'm just want to make it clear now. If I send you an email for the budgeting process, it's most likely going to be one initial email and have all the information you need. So read it line by line and just make sure if you have any questions to ask, so you guys are following the processes. Here's an example of a trial balance. It shows you where your account currently stands, and when you want to deposit your fundraising requirement, this is where you'll do it, and that'll be in the auxiliary services on the third floor in West Village Commons, room 309. And you request the trial balance from SGA Finance at towson.edu. That's the front desk assistant. I have that contact information at the end. Reclamation of funds. So if you're found violating financial policy or any governing document, Attorney General Jenna Jallo has the power to reclaim funds and nullify the student group's budget if applicable. So just make sure you're following the rules. Hopefully that cheat sheet is ready soon, so you guys can leave. Just go look and take that knowledge, and so you're not making the wrong choices as a org. And yeah, is my contact information. Uh, like I said, my name is David Onwonga. I'm the treasurer. That's my school email. And then the SGA front desk assistant. This is the email right here. And yeah, this is my advisor, Ebor. That's me. Sean, vice president. Jordan, president. This is the university president right here. Sophia, chief of staff. Sophie. Jenna, attorney general, and Cam, W chief of staff. So if you want to remember faces, these are our faces. But yeah, any questions? Carolyn should also be back. Yeah.
Thanks, David.
All right.
Did anyone have questions for David? Y'all are a quiet group. All right, I'm gonna jump into some of the practical side of spending money through SGA. David, if you want to stop sharing, I will go into this and share my screen. All right. Can y'all see my screen? David, can you see me? My pin. Yes. I hope it's yes. All right. So I'm going to jump in and tell you about what it means to spend money through SGA. Just so you know, Student Government Association assists student org leaders with processing payment for their organizations throughout the academic year. Most of our payment or most of our support comes in fall and spring semester when you all are the most active. It's a team of professionals and student staff who help process and manage things in the office. If you have questions or concerns or need anything, you should email sgafinance@towson.edu or visit the SGA office in the Union 263. I do want to make sure there are some key terms everyone understands. I'm not going to go in depth on all of these, but in general, want to make sure you understand when I'm using terms or when anyone in the office is using terms, what we mean. The first thing that I will continue to drill in, because this is a change for this year, is that the purchase request form is the first thing that you should do when you're spending money through campus. So whether you're spending SGA allocated funds or your organization's general funds, you absolutely should always start with submitting a purchase request. The purchase request form can be found on the homepage of Involved at TU. There are also multiple types of accounts. You have your general account, which is your org's general account for fundraised money. So when your group fundraises and deposits money into your campus account, that's called your general account. The activity account is the next most active account on campus. That's SGA allocated funds. SGA also has other funds, including travel, equipment, and advertisement. So it can be any of those 4 accounts through SGA. Petty cash, the key here is to note that it's $50 and under. You can use petty cash in a advance. So you can go pick up $50 in cash, go spend and purchase the things you need, and return the change and the receipts or proof of purchase. And then you don't have to come out of pocket, or you can be reimbursed through petty cash. We also have a reimbursement process. That's for receiving money if you spent over $50. The reimbursement process happens through the form of a check and can take up to 30 days to process. From there, we have the semester budget process, which David talked about. The semester prior to you using funds is when the request happens. So for this spring semester, the budget process is to request funds for the fall semester. Supplemental and grant funds are additional funds that are offered through Student Government Association. Those have their own parameters and rules. David went over them earlier, but they're also accessible through the SGA website and the financial policy. In addition to that, the contract process is a pretty big one. That's a binding contract or document between the university and a vendor or service provider. Those things have to be executed ahead of time to ensure that legally we can be in that relationship with the third-party service provider, and that they can get paid for the services that they provide. Quotes and invoices are particular to understanding what the cost of an item or service or product might be. And then the invoice is about the actual end final cost. We absolutely need invoices so that we can make payment to vendors moving forward. I mentioned this in the bigger session at the start of today, that we are moving away from cutting checks to vendors on the day of your event. So if you're working with a caterer who might be used to receiving a check on the day that they come to campus, you'll need to communicate to them that we are no longer cutting checks. It is a cumbersome process, and with our transition in staff, we have moved that process to happen through the state of Maryland, which means once your event ends, we'll submit the invoice for payment, and then the state of Maryland will cut a check to that vendor. That check process can also take 2 to 4 weeks or 10 to 20 business days or up to a month. All of that's the equivalent. And then accounts payable is an office on TU's campus who actually helps to facilitate the process that I just described to you. So accounts payable, when we submit your invoices for payment to the vendors that you've worked with, the accounts payable office is who actually helps facilitate the check writing process for the vendor. Are there any questions so far? quiet group. The next 3 slides are about how we move through some processes. I'm also going to show you a quick tutorial on how we do that. The first one is the purchase request process. So there are a few steps to just keep in mind about submitting and using the purchase request process. The first thing is to locate the form, which is on the homepage of Involved at TU. It's in 2 different places. It's always at the top of the homepage. And then on the right side, there's a series of links that you also can find the purchase request form. From there, while you are filling out the form, this one trips people up a little bit. You need to specifically know the type of purchase and the funding source of your purchase. The type of purchase is contingent on whether you are being reimbursed or need something to be purchased ahead of time. If you're need something to be purchased on behalf of your group ahead of time, then you're making a general purchase. So if you want for SGA to pay for things through Amazon and you don't want anyone in your org to have to pay out of pocket, you would be making a general purchase. If you need a reimbursement, meaning you are either already planning to spend the money and asking for it back, or you already spent the money and now you need it back, that would be a reimbursement. And reimbursement happens one of 2 ways. If it's less than $50, you'll get reimbursed through petty cash. If it's over $50, you'll be reimbursed through a check. The next one is funding source. So from understanding where your money is coming from for how you're going to spend it is really important. Your organization's general account or your general funds is the fundraised money that is sitting in your org's account. You get to spend that money however you like, as long as it is not a prohibited purchase, like spending it on alcohol or fireworks or something else absurd that we can't pay for. The other option is your SGA semester budget. So if your group was allocated a semester budget, that could also be one of your funding sources. Remember, that could be either activity, travel, equipment, or printing. Once you know that information and put it in the system, it'll tell you what the next question will be. You'll let us know whether or not your purchase is being used for a campus event. If your answer is yes, we ask for more details of that campus event. If the answer is no, then it'll just take you on to the next step. The next big thing you need to understand is which category of spending. This is typically specific for SGA, but it might ask you if you're using your general funds as well. So for us, it's understanding if you're going to spend your money on activities, travel, equipment, or printing and advertising. Once you move through the entire form, you're going to submit it. Our office will receive the information, and then we will communicate with the person who submitted the form to let you know what needs to happen next. Are there any questions about the purchase request process? All right. The next piece is the reimbursement process. This is key to understand, especially for anyone who might be making sure that you're getting your money back, and if it's a large sum of money. The first thing you do is submit a purchase request form. You should do this prior to making the purchase. We don't want you to be in a position where you submit for a reimbursement and either your group doesn't have any money to reimburse you, or it's a purchase that cannot be reimbursed for. So doing it prior to helps us let you know whether or not it's a legitimate thing that can be reimbursed for. Then you're going to go make your purchase and collect your itemized receipt. An itemized receipt is specifically detailed information about your purchase. It should have the vendor name, the cost per item, the quantity, including the totals, and that it has been paid. So if you think about a register receipt, so if you go into like Target and you buy your stuff and they print out a receipt, that's an itemized receipt. It cannot be like a blue slip of paper that's like, all right, they got 2 things and it costs $25. That's not enough information. We need to know it's coming from a legitimate company to ensure that we can make payments for you. The key here too is that it has to be an original. We cannot take a photo of a register receipt. We cannot take a photocopy of a register receipt. It has to be the original. In addition, if you are purchasing something online, so if you buy something from Amazon, or if you maybe you bought a flight ticket like through Southwest, We can take that version of a digital ticket. We would just print it out and make sure that we can attach it to the pink slip. Once you have all of the original receipts, you're going to deliver them or bring them to the SGA office in the Union 263 and complete that pink slip. The pink slip is bright pink. It's like a hot pink slip of paper. It's a half sheet. Habib, the front desk student, will be there to help you fill it out to make sure that you can get everything that you need for the reimbursement. The SGA staff then will generate the reimbursement check, then send you an email when it's ready for you to pick up. Questions about the reimbursement process? Y'all are good. Okay. The next one is if you want to make a general purchase using Amazon or Target. I strongly suggest this, especially if it's for smaller items that might be burdensome for an individual student to have to pay out of pocket for. We can make purchases for you from Amazon and Target ahead of time so that you don't have to cover the cost. What you're going to do is visit the Amazon or Target website, locate your items, and then add them to a list, either an Amazon list or a Target registry wish list. You're going to label that list with your organization's name and the title of the event. Because when you send us the link, we want to be able to know what event it belongs to. You're going to update the quantity or any details related to each item on your wish list so that we understand what it is you're trying to do or if there's any special needs for the purchase that's being made. And then when you submit the purchase request, you're going to include the Amazon wish list link or the Target registry wish list link. Then you'll submit the purchase request form and the SGA staff will make the purchase on behalf of your organization. I'm going to show you what that looks like really quick. So through Amazon, if I'm going to make a purchase of multiple items for my event. So say I need to buy 5 of these display containers. I found my item. I'm going to go to the list section down here. And in the drop down, I'm going to click create a list. I'm going to buy this for SGA's big event.
Phone call of your life today.
Sierra, we can hear you, hon. I'm going to create my list here. Now, if I go look at my list, which you can also get to from your menu at the top, if I'm on my list, I also can change the quantity. So if I need 5 of these, I'm going to change the quantity to 5 and everything's updated. If I want to add a comment that says 4 will be for SGA and 1 for student activities, then I have a note here. I don't know, that seems weird, but whatever. Now it has a comment. When you get ready to share the information with the SGA office through the purchase request form, you're going to generate a public link, click copy, and then this is the link you're going to submit in the purchase request form. When I receive the link on my end, I'm in here. I can see already that you've selected that there's a quantity of 5. All I have to do when I make your purchase is click add all to cart, which is 5 items. And now there's no guesswork for me about whether or not your organization or how many things your organization might need. Similarly, for Target, you're going to create a registry. So in the top, you're going to click registry, and then you're going to pick wish list. So create a wish list registry. You're going to create one. You're going to put your info in there. And then the date, the key thing you should know, because you should be submitting this at least 2 weeks in advance, you should not have an issue with this. But Target doesn't let you pick a date that's too close to the day that you're creating the form or creating the wish list. So say my event was actually on February 5th. It's not letting me pick February 5th. That's fine. Just still click whatever the next best date you have. And the occasion name is going to be the same thing, your organization name and the name of the event. So the SGA big event, I'm going to click continue. Yours is probably going to look different than this. All of this is the detail, and I'm going to create the registry. And now I can add all of my items that I want to purchase. I can add it to this registry list. Are there any questions? No questions? No financial questions?
What's the last day to submit a supplemental request?
They're open all semester until the money's gone. The key timeline piece you should know though is supplemental takes time to process. So I would give yourself 2 to 3 weeks prior to your event to make your request so that you can have your approval or your answer prior to needing to put in your purchase requests. So remember, 10 days is what you need for a purchase request at least. So maybe it's 15 days for you submitting for your supplemental so that you have enough time for your approval and to submit a purchase request.
Is that the same with the Just Do It fund?
Yes. Grants and supplemental forms, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Lillian?
I just had a quick question about, so a couple weeks ago, I think, we got our like tentative budget approval emails. I just wanted to ask why there were changes to that budget that I got in that email, and how it was different from the budget that got approved last semester, because the budget that we got approved by SGA was significantly bigger than the one that we got approved via email. So I was just kind of curious as to how that would have panned out.
I can talk about it.
Go ahead, David.
What org are you with?
It's Young Democratic Socialists of America.
Oh yeah, I was just looking at that. Hold on. Young Democrat. But basically, actually, let me look at it before I say anything.
Before you give specifics, I will generally say the budget allocation you receive in one semester does not guarantee any funding for the following semester. So they're two completely separate processes. They're two completely different things. In addition to that, just so you all know, student org leaders submit a request, right? So your budget request is you asking for money. SGA, there's a group of senators who then come together to review all of the budget requests that are received. And then they sit in a room literally for 8 hours to talk about and figure out how to make sure that the requests that have come in are following all of the rules and that the amount is lower or not higher than the allocated amount that we have to give to student organizations. So for the spring semester, we had $15,000 to give to student organizations. 110. So 110,000, sorry. The requests that came in totaled over 150,000. So we had way more, right? So then we had to cut, whatever the difference was, we had to cut that in allocations because we cannot give out more money than we have to give.
But it wasn't just cutting though. Like it depends on their submitted research. So if there was no research, then
right.
So that was their case.
For YDSA?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the senators went through each organization's request and made a decision based on the information that was in front of them. So your research, whether or not the request followed the financial policies, and the amount of money that we have to give to all student organizations. There were about 50 to 55 submissions and only $110,000 when we had over $50,000 in requests than we had to give. We had more requested than we had to give. And then David, if you wanted to talk specifically to YDSA, you're welcome to do that too.
I thought that covers it. But yeah, so it just depends on your research. So for each, like I was saying during the presentation, like for each line item you request, there has to be adequate research for it. So that could be an invoice, an email from the caterer person that's your contractor, or screenshots, anything that can show us this is where you're getting this number from. But if you're just like I was saying, like if you're just saying 500 food and you don't have any links or anything to support the food you're getting, it's just $500 were given to you. And like Carla was saying, we only had 110,000 to give. So when it came down to it, we just cut those that didn't follow financial policy, even though that you're naturally supposed to get cut, you know. But that was just first basis. If you didn't have adequate research or any research for certain line items, then it was denied instead of denying your whole budget. So
Yeah, so my question was just that there were actually some items that did have research that were not approved, although we were not told during the initial like meeting face to face with SGA that that was the case. So that's why I was confused. I was under the impression that there were items that would get approval and that had like research, but then there wasn't money allocated for them in the budget. It's okay. I know this is like a really case by case basis, so you can like answer other questions. I was just curious personally.
We can talk with you offline, Lillian. That's fine.
yeah.
Erica, did you have a question? No. Well, that's the end of our presentation. I believe we need to go back to the main room.
Oh, there were questions in the chat actually.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh
No,
yeah,
you're
so
fine.
about mileage reimbursements. I talked about that during the presentation, but for mileage reimbursements, what do
Yeah,
you
so
talk about? Yeah, go ahead. I don't know.
yes, when you need mileage reimbursement, you use map, well, I almost said MapQuest, Google Maps to from Towson University's campus to your destination and back. We use that to see how many miles it is. I think mileage reimbursement right now is 65 cents per mile. So you multiply 65 cents per mile times the number of miles that you drive, and that's the reimbursement amount. There's a travel website through Towson. So if you go to the like Towson's homepage, Towson University's homepage, you could just, type in mileage reimbursement to the search bar and it'll show you those details. But really just a screenshot of the map, the Google map, and the distance, and that shows the evidence of
Yeah, don't
what the
just type
mileage
it
is.
out. Don't just say 30 something miles. If you got screenshots, take it. So you're not just, it's not hearsay. Like it's research really.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Your org's budget is not on a website. You should email sgafinance@towson.edu to ask for your trial balance. I will note here, trial balances are being updated right now. Our reconciliation process that we have to manually put in every purchase that's made through SGA, and we're a little bit behind. So me and the two other staff members are catching up this week and the beginning of next week. So really by the end of next week, all the trial balances should be up to date. You can ask for it now, just know that it's not gonna be what you're looking for because it might be missing some things. But it's happening. You're welcome, Nora. All right, I think we are over time. And there should be a link for us to get back to the main room. Let me see. 2:55. Closing. Here, I'm going to drop the Zoom link for everyone, and then we can head back to the other room. Thanks so much, y'all.
We go back to the main room.
Yeah. Stay in here though, so that people can see the link in the chat.
Mm-hmm. What's that?
The link to the main room.
Oh. Bless you. I got this big dog next to me.
I was gonna say, did somebody sneeze?
Yeah.
Alex and Erica, if you're there, you should go back to the main room. The link is in the chat. Alex and Erica, if you can hear us, you should go back to the main room. Oh, it's okay. Yes, make sure the dog has food.
Look, yeah.
Oh.
Right.
Wow.
Let me go. But yeah. What's up with these?
All right, we can go to the main room too. You can log off, David.
All right.